03 Superduty. We'll be taking the brakes apart on the front today, and that's because the calipers aren't sliding back and forth. I'm going to take that apart and lube up those pins, some brake grease. How to replace these pads. Now, I'm not actually going to be replacing them. I'm just taking the calipers off to lube up the pins for the caliper to slide back and forth, because I think they're pretty dry, and when the brakes heat up I get some pullage from left or some pullage to the right, and that's what we're going to do. Tools to have on hand: obviously your 4-way or your lug wrench, some sort of device. If you plan on changing your pads, you're going to have to push the pistons back in the calipers, so either a clamp or some other type of device to push the piston back in. Some brake lubricant, flathead screwdriver, 17mm wrench, and a 13/16 wrench, and that ought to do the job for you. Okay, well, the first order of business is to get the truck up on jack stands. I've got it up with the jack, and the jack stand right in front of it, just for safety. Take the wheel off and we'll get started. You'll find two 17mm bolts, one on the top and one on the bottom, same spot. Okay, and then you can use a screwdriver and help it come off. Okay, and then we're just going to set it up out of the way. Very convenient on this truck. I can set it right on a leaf spring. Then you'll see these two clips that hold the pads together. I'm presuming when you let off the brakes. I'm not sure what the use behind this is, but just wiggle them and one at a time they'll come out. Just remember that when you put them in, the two humps will face each other in the center. Then your pads will come out. Try, if at all possible, to pry on the metal part and not the brake media itself. Okay, and these look pretty good. I'm not really going to do anything about replacing them. Still got a lot of life left on them. I'm just going to clean out the vent in the center. Okay, and the back. If these were old pads, I wouldn't be so worried about ruining them or nicking anything up, but since I'm going to reuse them, I'm going to be careful with them. Okay, and then these here are what I was talking about. This is so the caliper can move a little bit in case your rotors get warped or anything like that happens when they heat up. They move around, things like that, but these need to stay lubed up. This side doesn't seem too bad. Now I'll tell you, on the other side, I had to pound these out with a hammer. I had to stick a wrench on them and pry them out, and PB blaster out the wazoo, twisting them back and forth with a vice grips. I couldn't get them out no matter what I did, and I think that's what did it. But since I did the other side, it only makes sense to do both sides. And if you pull the rubbers back off the little lip, the whole pin will come out, and you'll see whether there's grease on them or not, and you can inspect them to see if they have any abnormal wear, maybe a worn spot on one part. And also on this truck, The top pin, I didn't realize this on the other side. Since I haven't bought a book for this truck yet, I had to really think which one came out of where. Anyway, the top pin is pretty normal looking. Nothing out of the ordinary. You'll clean the grease off of it when you inspect it for damage. You'll see it has I think 3 faces. 1, 2, and 3. 3 flat faces. If you see anything other than that, maybe a certain spot that's worn, or maybe the whole thing's worn, or it's rusted and pitted real bad like the other side was, you might want to think about replacing them. Check the condition of the boot. This one seems to be pretty good. It's a little dry, but I don't see any holes in it yet. And that one's pretty good. And we'll set this off to the side. Now remember, this top one is pretty normal looking, so if there's any question when you go to put it back together, as long as you can remember, the normal one goes on top. And then when we take the bottom out, I'm actually going to hit this with some PB, soften it up a bit. I don't want it to rip. These are very important. And then when this one comes out, you'll notice that it looks a little different. It doesn't have any of those 3 faces on it, but it does have like a rubber, a collar, I don't know what you would want to call it, on the bottom. And if you're careful enough to pull it off, you'll see that the pin itself has a spot for it to fit right into. Don't lose either one, and make sure that this one's in good condition and the rubber isn't ripped in half or anything. But this one also looks pretty clean. It looks as if this one's been replaced, as opposed to the other side. Check the boot on this one. This one looks alright, a little dry, but I think we can handle it. I'm going to clean all the rust off of this edge. I'm going to put some lube on it and put her back in. Once you have the pins cleaned off, it's not a bad idea to take yourself a small screwdriver or something of that sort, and mine seems to be disappeared, and take your rag and also put it in where the pin goes, spin it around a few times and try to clean that out as well, if they're that bad. Doesn't do any good to put fresh grease on it and put them back in the same rusty spot. And while you're down here, you can take a look at your rotors and see what they look like. These still got one more set of pads on them, I'd say. It'll be time for it next time around. If these happen to come out, these are the wear indicators or warning noise. The screeching you hear when your brakes go bad. They have trays integrated into them to help the brake pad fit a little tighter. If they happen to fall out, just stick them back in. And I'll tell you what I use to breathe some life back into these here rubber boots. If they seem dry, or they got rust in them, or on the outside, or they feel brittle, I got this stuff. I picked it up. It's called PB Blaster. This stuff is amazing. This does everything. I mean, rusted bolts. If you like WD-40, get yourself a bottle of PB Blaster. It sucks itself uphill into nooks and crannies where you can't get stuff off, and it's good for all kinds of things. It's got a whole list on the back of it what it does. But the one that caught my eye the other day, corrects stubborn leaking toilets. PB restores life to hardened flapper valves and shut-off valve O-rings. Now, if this stuff can revive rubber parts, cars, same thing. Now, this just a minute ago was brittle and felt like paper, and I just cleaned it out with this, and it feels brand new again. This stuff works great. Get yourself a bottle. This is ready to go back together. Now, I also picked up, I think these are like 89 cents at AutoZone in the cashier's aisle. Brake lubricant. You don't need much. This whole pack lasts me like 10 brake jobs. I'm gonna put the boot on first. Make sure it snaps into the front in place. And then just squeeze a little bit of this out. Spread it all the way around. And it'll go into place. Make sure that the back side of the boot snaps into its side. There's a little lip. And she's in. Well, the bottom one, that's a little bit more fun. To make sure I get the grease all the way in the tube in there, what I do is I put the grease on the pin first without the collar, the little rubber grommet, and I put that in by itself, so I make sure it reaches all the way in. Give it a couple of spins and then take it back out. Then you can put your rubber collar in first by itself. It'll create too much of a vacuum to put them in both at the same time. And then the pin behind it. You'll push that grommet all the way inside and it'll stop. It takes a little bit of effort and some wiggling. You'll get it to go back on. It'll snap onto the pin itself. And you can feel it, it'll create the vacuum, it'll pull itself back in. If I take it back out, I'll show you it's on. See? So, that goes in first by itself. And then the pin. And just make sure that the rubber boot goes onto both of the lips so the grease will stay in there. And we're ready to put the brake pads back in. Those little clips might fell off. Just snap into place. And then the brake pads. They have a real tight fit. Once you have both of the brake pads in, on go those two clips, like so. And then you're ready to put your caliper back on. Now this, if you put new pads in, you're going to have to use a C-clamp and one of the old brake pads to push the pistons back in. Make sure you take the master cylinder cap off under the hood before you do that. But since I'm putting the same pads back in, mine should be right where it was before. And there it is. Two 17mm bolts. And that'll about wrap up this job. There's a little bit of movement on the caliper, that's good. And we can put the wheel back on. And don't forget to put your master cylinder cap back on if you had to take that off to put new pads in. Other than that, that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them.